Hey, my name's Jarrett. I'm just wanting to start this video journal because I don't like normal journaling. So, I, it's, what day is it today? It is the 28th of July, 2020. And I am here in my apartment in Midvale, Utah, where I've lived since last December with my roommate Jared. And yeah, I've been going through a lot this last 5 or 6 months. It's been a rough decade for me or so, but um, this has really been a very interesting and I think very crucial time in my life. And so I've been guided to keep some records. Nothing in particular, just kind of whatever moves me. And so I thought maybe I'd give this a try. And so that's what we're doing, among other things. And yeah, so this is all about, for me, um, awakening. So I sense that there's kind of a greater awakening occurring right now where I live, and even on a greater scale, I think, in our country, the United States, and in certain places around the world. And we're kind of moving toward that direction as people through their paths have been finding love and sort of learning about what it is to turn to the light and turn to the love of God. And they're learning that through their experience here. They're learning it, I think, in other expressions at other places in their dream space as they go to sleep. And they're receiving these lessons and these teachings, and I'm no exception. And so we're just starting more and more to experience this spiritual awakening, which comes with, I think, an added awareness of kind of who we are and why we're here, where we come from, where we're going, and helping us really come to an understanding of what we need to stand for, which has always been around us. Things like freedom, equality, liberty, the pursuit of justice, ideals which our country were built on. And also things like devices for learning that have been given to us by the Holy Spirit and by God and have been shown to us by Jesus Christ, like forgiveness and having a perfect love, trying to see each other with His perfect vision as children of God, who will always be children of God, and as we know, no child of God is ever left behind. And so that's why we're here, to spread that message and to come to an understanding, which is very personal, that understanding of what that means. And it may not look like or sound like or be quite understood exactly like somebody else's understanding of the exact same thing. And that's okay, because we're each these beautiful, unique, special people. And we just all happen to be one. And we're all one with His love. We're all one with Heavenly Father. And we're all one here on earth. And so we're in this together. And the more and more we join our hands and our hearts and our minds, and come together in that oneness of love and of peace and of perfect vision to see as Christ does, or however if you don't believe in Jesus Christ, just those kind of divine principles that govern an eternal existence, the more we kind of join in that, the greater and greater impact we can have on our experience here and the experience of everybody, in every form of life, the planet itself and beyond, as our energy ripples through space and time and affects change across the universe. And we have that power right here, right now. And so that is kind of an understanding that I've come to through my path here. And it's come with some crazy, kind of new perceptions. And so I've been hearing voices. And at first, I didn't really quite understand what they were. I just thought they were whatever. I don't know, all in my head, as they say, which I know now that they're not. But well, I don't know that officially, but I'm pretty sure. And so that gets the job done, even though it maybe doesn't check the box. And so that requires someone else coming to me and saying, hey, I think our heads are communicating. So we should talk about that. But no one's done that so far, and that's okay. Maybe a couple head nods and kind of visual things that I'm like, are they confirming that they can hear my thoughts? But no official confirmation has happened yet, and that's okay. It is required to start working together on certain things, but it's not required for me to decide. I have an understanding that I believe this is happening, and belief is all that's required, and and I believe those principles that I was just discussing are true, and I want to share them with the world because I know that I'm one with every one of my brothers and sisters, and there are a lot of benefits to be experienced, a lot of blessings to be received if you choose to accept those perfect principles and share them with the world, however you can, whatever your medium is, right? And so that can be something like this. It could be writing it down in a book. It could be bearing your testimony out loud. It could be sharing it through some sort of psychic connection. It could be, joining others in their dreams and teaching them there or being taught from them. And those are all perfect and perfectly acceptable forms of communicating that decision and that message. And, on some level, we can do all of them. And we can do all of them at the same time because time is all happening at the same time. And so the beauty of this message can ripple through time and space and affect countless lives, which we may or may not ever even be aware of, and the effects of such a simple choice and such a simple truth can have impact and can bring joy in many forms and understanding and love and acceptance and forgiveness on levels and in ways that are beyond our understanding. So that's kind of why I'm starting this. I have conversations in my head pretty much all day, every day. There's some crazy stuff going on here in 2020. We have a lot of external seeming conflicts that are just kind of impacting, I think, adding to, compounding, maybe maybe exacerbating if we are in a more confused space. All of our inner conflict, which we tend to experience here or seem to experience here as human beings. So we've got the coronavirus, COVID-19, which is a pandemic that started in Wuhan, China, and it's similar to the avian bird flu, but it's kind of a mutation of it, and it's been spreading throughout the world, and it really kind of shut down our economies. They set up quarantine. They closed down all sorts of public events, movie theaters, sporting events. Hospitals were really full. It hit certain areas harder than most. I'm here in Utah, where we've been fairly blessed to not experience a huge surge in numbers. I believe there's like a 1 to 2% fatality rate, is my understanding, but you see different numbers. There's all different kinds of political arguments and ideological differences in how to view it, and what our freedom of choice is, whether that's to wear a mask to help protect others or to not wear a mask because it may affect our breathing. And we've seen studies or research showing that wearing a mask really doesn't do anything to help. I believe it does. And I'm able to breathe through it. It's annoying. My nose itches, but I wear it anyways when I'm out in public, just in the spirit of protecting others. I don't feel scared like I'm going to get sick. I'm going to get sick. I'm not really energizing sickness. I'm energizing protection. And that's something that, okay, I have this thing I can do to help protect others for now, because they may be experiencing sickness, or they may be worried about getting sick, or perhaps they're not in the same place as me for whatever reason, at no fault of their own, where they may be more likely to be sick. And I don't want that for them. I wouldn't want that for me. I don't want that for anyone. And so if this is something that is helpful, or that may even seem to be helpful, or may send a message of helpfulness and of willingness to do something very small to help protect others, then I'm going to go ahead and do that. So that's the choice that I've made. And that's one of the beautiful things about freedom, is choosing to protect other people. Although there are those out there who've been choosing not to wear a mask, and that's their freedom too, unless, of course, the laws are changed, and that's where there's some friction. Um, we're also trying to practice what's called social distancing, so we have to stay 6 feet apart. If you're exposed to someone with the virus, you have to self quarantine for 14 days before you can go back out, just to make sure, because it can be latent in the system or whatever it's called, dormant, or asymptomatic is what I'm saying, for at least 14 days. And so that's going on. That's created a huge economic stress. A lot of people were out of work. There's huge unemployment numbers. The government had to do a stimulus package to try and get people extra unemployment. Everyone got a check. I haven't gotten mine yet, but I had to send in my paper taxes, and I did that in mid-April, and they were on furlough, and they came back in, I think, June, and I think it's been about 6 weeks. So I think paper forms can take 6 to 8 weeks to come back. So it'll be nice to get that. I'm going to try and put that towards some of my financial planning that I'm trying to pick back up right now. I have terrible credit, even though, well, I have a terrible credit score as measured here on this planet. But there's lots of different types of credit, and so I think that's perfect. So that's going on, and then at the same time, there's been this sort of simmering injustice that's been boiling and boiling because it hasn't been addressed properly, about black people here in America, people of color, who have been unfairly targeted, profiled, and punished because of the color of their skin. And so more and more black people are being murdered by police officers without a trial or whatever, for small crimes, maybe for resisting arrests. But we had this man, George Floyd, who was a bigger man, but he was resisting arrest, so they say. I'm not sure. I wasn't there. But he was murdered by a chokehold that lasted 8 minutes long, as he just laid there and said he couldn't breathe. And there were other police officers standing around, so there would have been many other ways to restrain him without the officer putting his knee on his neck and killing him. And nothing's really been done about that. There's another young woman, Breonna Taylor, who was sleeping in her house, just sleeping, and was littered with 8 bullets by a SWAT team who went to the wrong house. And they haven't been charged either. And so things like that have been happening for years, but they kind of finally caught fire. And similar to what happened in Ferguson, Missouri back in 2013. And people are upset. They're really upset. I'm upset. It's just not America. Not the one that we signed up for, right? Not the one that we vote for when we hear the speeches and get excited about moving forward and progress and all the beautiful American ideals that this country was built on. So what's hard is it's not being addressed. A lot of people saying there is no issue, they're just playing victim, and it happens to white people too. And it's like, yeah, sometimes, but not nearly as much, right? It's an inordinate amount. And then you hear, oh, well, black people are more violent, or they commit more crimes, or whatever. And that's just not true. If a white person were in that same situation, they'd probably commit more crimes than a black person would, I think. And that situation being one of having been denied equal resources, having equally funded, well-funded schools, equal opportunities to equally invested in communities by corporations, equal consideration for good employment and opportunities, I have a friend in Alabama. She's been at her job. She's so competent. I love her. She's amazing. And her white coworker just got a promotion over her, and she's very gracious about it. But you can tell she's like, yep, I've seen this before. I've been through this before. It happens all the time. Yeah, and she's a great person. She's been there much longer than him, and um, I'm sure he's a good guy. Maybe, I don't know, but it's still happening here, even in 2020. But anyways, the big focus now is there have been riots, which is terrible. I'm anti-riot. I don't think it's helpful, but people are angry, and I can see why they're rioting. It's just that what it's done, in my opinion, is it's moved the focus of the conversation from Black Lives Matter, really, making sure that the police are correctly trained, that de-escalation techniques are like really driven home, that more hours are required to go through police training. Here in Utah, a barber has to go through more hours of training than a police officer does. And introducing things like more community engagement, being more approachable, kind of being community resources, renaming things like seeing, you have a civil, what's that called? A civil dispute call. I would call it a civil service call or whatever, like a domestic service call instead of a domestic violence call. Because, you're providing a service there, and a lot of times it's not really even violence. It's like quarreling, whatever, and someone maybe like, oh, who knows, not even threw a punch, but like was just getting really like upset. And so you can go there and provide a service to help de-escalate and help people get things together and maybe give them some resources or whatever. And so but it's just not always violence, even though maybe the call is that way. But I think you just don't know till you get there, and you're talented at de-escalating people. Well, not always, but anyways, that's just me. And I'm not trying to say that just because a call is about violence that it's not violence, because it quite often is. And so we never do that. But I sound crazy. Maybe I live in a different world. But yeah, so that's going on. And people are pulling down statues of Confederate soldiers and stuff because it's not acceptable. And so the conversations move from focusing on valuing these lives, making sure they're equally protected, making sure they're safe, making sure they're not being targeted, making sure that equal resources are available, kind of retraining the police, reimagining their role. Of course, there will always be policing, but also just kind of reestablishing connection and trust with the communities that they serve. Some communities it's there, and a lot it isn't. It should always be there. So, like, what do we need to do? Especially if we don't cut the funding, how can we streamline some of these so this frees up this funding to really go through those initiatives to rebuild the trust, and then kind of phase that funding out over a few years as it's rebuilt or whatever, and give it back to the taxpayer, which would be great, because there's a lot of inefficiency in different forms of government. It's like, where does the money go? But maybe I'm dumb because I'm not educated on this. This is how I see things. And welcome to America, right? So that's going on. That's really scary, especially because I don't see the president or many people in the Republican Party or in the conservative movement addressing the issue. A lot of them don't even acknowledge. They're like, there's no racism. There's no issue. It's like, there is an issue. It's okay to say, yeah, there's an issue. We need to take care of it. And that's where this conversation begins. So they are focusing on the rioting, which I understand, because we need to keep streets safe. And the thing is, the rioting is pulling the attention away from the actual conversation, but I can see why they're upset. They feel like nobody's listening. They're unseen. They're unheard. They're getting the message: we don't care about you. We don't respond to criticism, or there's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong. It's not happening. So and it is, and it just keeps getting worse. And then there's just the election coming up. There's I feel what I'm hearing is that there's a lot of other people awakening. There's a lot more people awakening. And my experience personally has been that that's also very controversial, and that there's been a decision made on some level here, down here on planet Earth, which is not a different level at all. It's all the same level. Um, that they need to be handled a certain way, and that we're going to kind of pretend like it's not happening. We don't publicly acknowledge things. People need to take direction in their head. They need to kind of like, improve their lives just based on what the voices in their head are telling them, or otherwise they're going to suffer for lack of choosing to just follow what voices in their head are saying. But those voices could be anybody. And my own personal voices, which aren't mine, but they're the ones that I've been experiencing on a very personal level right here in my awareness, are all over the place. So they're threatening me, they're beating me down, shaming me, guilting me, telling me I'm not good enough, that I'm the most dangerous person in the world because I'm not like fully Democrat or fully Republican. I'm a moderate, and I have controversial interpretations of Christ's teachings, which aren't even interpretations. They're just a better way of seeing them, because they're more simple, they're less judgmental, they're more forgiving, and they're for everyone. And that's just Jesus Christ, right? He's just gentle, he's loving, he's forgiving, and he loves everyone, and he loves us all equally. And if we can live our lives in accordance with his teachings and see each other that way, even though we seem to get so frustrated with the games each other play and all the injustices of the world, which are definitely, things that we need to address by bringing justice to the world. And justice is just the end of injustice. By just doing away with the fear and the damnation and the punishment, and just choosing forgiveness and choosing to see each other as children of God instead of enemies or dangerous people or anything like that, because he loves us all so much. And so many people see that message as a threat for some reason, because, well, what's the motivation to be a good person if Jesus just loves everyone? It's like, well, I don't know, just to be a good person. And being a good person doesn't mean having a picture perfect house and a perfect credit score as measured here on earth. It just doesn't. But those things are nice. Those things are nice, and we can help each other achieve those things, but they're not required to be a good person. And I think that that's a dangerous message to send people, that those are required to be a good person, or if you have found Jesus, then you would get your life together and be this shining star. And it's like, well, we're already shining stars, and get better together. So we join hands, we join hearts, we join minds, and we are gentle and loving with each other's mistakes. We remind each other of each other's perfection. We keep each other accountable in the moment because our minds are joined. Before bad things happen, we're like, hey, whoa, what are you doing? remember who you are. And we just fight for what's right. And we fight for our freedoms. And we're free to talk to each other. We're free to believe as we believe. And even if we believe differently, we can still work together on the things we agree on, which are Jesus Christ is love. God is love. He loves us. We love each other. I hate this thing you do, but we can work on that, right? And so that's what I keep putting out in my head, and I keep getting pushback saying that, oh, you have to submit to these things that we made up. And that's just the way it is. That's the real world. And I'm like, no, the real world is heaven. It's part of the kingdom of heaven. And it's right here. It's this planet. It's just not here yet because we haven't awakened to the reality of those truths and of those principles. And we haven't aligned our lives and our systems and organizations, our thought system, more in alignment with those principles, which we don't have to do everything all at once. I mean, it can be done, right? But we just have to understand that that's true. We have to be willing to do that. We have to start practicing, right? Even though it seems hard at first because we're so used to this crazy fear-based thought system, this ego thought system. But we just forgive ourselves when it happens. We bring it right back. We ask each other, "Hey, can you remind me when I'm doing that?" Or can we start? I know that I'm being a little negative right now, so I need extra support with some really positive, loving messages. And I apologize in advance. Please forgive me for struggling in this, but I am committed to this, and I know that you are too. And so let's try and keep each other accountable, um, and it'll come more and more naturally until we're just doing it every moment without even thinking about it. It's just how we view the world now. And we're viewing it truly. We're viewing it through Christ's eyes, and just watch the kingdom kind of unfold and appear around us, both through, the transcendent touch of the hand of God, who can just touch our existence here and honor our decision to choose Him and transcend the laws of this universe and just create a miraculous transformation of where we're living, and also through our own work, which we do together, right? I mean, we have our own work, but we work on teams, and we're working towards things, and we're starting to implement some of the even small changes that move us toward these choices we've made, and we don't do like, okay, we'll do one small change and that's it, and then where's the kingdom? But just doing what we can, being realistic, and then just keep going and just keep doing it, right? And yeah, we'll kind of reevaluate, okay, what's working, what's not working, whatever, but we're just moving toward God. We're moving toward Christ's teachings. We're stepping into our light, and we're starting to truly realize, make real in our awareness, in our existence here, the ideals that the United States of America was built upon, and make sure that they are shared with everyone, because we are one with them. They're all children of God. They're all United States citizens, or they live here. They are even present here. I mean, if even someone's just here on a visa for a month from the Philippines, right? Great, welcome. This is all for you too, right? We treat you just like we treat anyone. I mean, I'm not saying you're like eligible for wear for anything, but we see you as a child of God. We see you as a perfect person. We want to share this experience with you, this place that we built. Welcome to our home. You're our guest here, and that's who we are. We're Americans, right? Like, we're so proud to consider ourselves leaders of the free world, and to actually step into that role and lead them and show them, hey, this is what a free world looks like. This is what it feels like, sounds like. This is what work here looks like, right? It allows us to experience the spiritual journey. It allows us to connect with one another. It allows us to maybe take a little bit of time to soak it all in. And but because we're all joining together and doing it, we get a lot done, because in this sort of go, 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 grind, 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 no days up, team, no days off, take on a second or third job till all your debts are paid off. It's so draining. You can't focus on the real work, right? This inner work. That so much productivity is left in the parking lot, right? It's like you have this 100% yourself at 100% productivity, right? You can do so much, but because you feel isolated, you feel cut off. You're not able to take the time that's necessary to really nurture your creative mind and your spiritual soul and your emotional well-being and your mental well-being and the relationships that you're in. And you're not surrounded by these beautiful, positive, loving messages that you get out of your car and you walk in and you're at 65%, and that other 35% productivity is out in your car. And that's just the way it is in an environment like this. And so by allowing people to work together, to be more honest with each other, to weave purpose into what they do, and to give them the time and the benefits to really nurture their lives, they're taking that 110% in every day. And they're all doing it because it's available to all of them. And so it seems ass backwards, right? I shouldn't say that, but it seems like, oh no, if we do that, right, we're going to lose productivity. But if you do it right, It may seem to cost more at first because people are getting used to it. You're working out the system, you're getting everybody on board, and it might cost more for a couple of years. But once you build that culture, and we're not just building it as employers, we're building it as communities, we're building it as families, we're building it as a country. All of a sudden, it just starts clicking, and it starts flowing, and people are happy, they're joyous, they feel free, they feel excited, they're passionate about what they're doing. And I know people now are passionate about what they're doing, but they're just being driven to the bone. And and it's all for fear of not being good enough, or for fear of this, or for fear of that, and fear just doesn't work as well as love. And all of a sudden, that productivity just explodes. It's just limitless. And what we can get done, because the Holy Spirit recognizes that. He goes, whoa, America, there you are again. I see a bright shining light. You went dark. What happened? Let's bless you again.